Man, oh man. I found a thread on our games, right? This one is so good. And the title of the thread on our games is this. Hear me out. We need a term for games that are in a specific state where only hardcore players remain who dominate in such a way that prevents any new players from being able to enjoy. So, like, you go into the game, and everybody who's playing the game has 5,000, 10,000 hours played. They're all incredibly experienced. There's no newcomers. So I read this thread, and obviously this thread is about fighting games. Like, it's all centered around fighting game discussion, right? Except it's not. The example in the thread title is Sea of Thieves. It says, wow, this game has an amazing world. It's so nice and everything, but everybody's experienced. They're all super familiar with the game. I can't do anything. Second game, got to be a fighting game. It's time. Where's Guilty Gear? Here it is. Dead by Daylight is the second game listed here. It's got a cool, unique gameplay experience. It's really cool, but then you don't know the meta stuff. You get killed by all the killers. You don't know how to get away from stuff. You just die, all right? But the third game, surely, it's got to be Tekken 7, right? Here it is. Rainbow Six Siege. You look at the title post here, and you're like, huh. This is talking about something that everybody is. They always say this is the problem with fighting games, is that everybody is super experienced, and when you get into the game, there's no new players left, right? Everybody's just there, try hard, professional, combo, glue sniffer, and I can't win. So they were trying to come up with a term for when a game is in this state of play. But surely the first comment in this thread must be about fighting games, right? Because this happens to fighting games. Fighting game players tell me, Sajam, other games aren't hard. Fighting games are hard. Fighting games are the only games where when people get into them, they're so difficult and only good players are left, right? Can't happen in other games. Only fighting games. So let's see the first post. Got to be about fighting games. Huh, it's just about skill gates. All right, he's talking about skill gate as a term or whatever. You know, it's cool. Sajam brought that up. All right, let's look at the next one. Siege. All right, somebody else brought up Siege twice. How did Siege get brought up twice before a fighting game? That's weird. Gears of War. Oh, that's weird. All right, well, not a problem. I'm sure the next one will be something else, right? Nothing in this one, right? Sea of Thieves, Dead by Daylight. Okay, these are on the topic of the thread. They won't count. This one's perfect. I opened up this thread thinking he's gonna be talking about Dota. Wait, Dota or League? How did Dota or League come up before fighting games? I thought MOBAs were the easiest games ever. Everybody told me if you have friends, you just play a MOBA and it's the easiest game to learn ever. Way easier than fighting games. Fighting games got to be here somewhere. TF2, Quake 3 Arena. Was that 7 games, 8 games we've hit now, and no fighting games yet? MMOs, survival games. The entire genre of MMOs and survival games have come up before fighting games. But I mean, all these games listed, the things they're describing are exactly what people say a fighting games issue is. Could it be that maybe fighting games aren't the only genre of competitive game that is difficult and when you first start out feels like there's a lot of stuff to learn? Battlefield 4 got brought up. Fighting games, finally. Fighting games, I found it. We scroll all the way down, we found one. Fighting games, right here. They attract people who like mastery. Finally, we found someone who brought up fighting games. I'm happy about that. Oh, here's another comment. Same dude. Though in Tekken's case, it really is just a difficult game, regardless of the enemy players. It has no tutorial whatsoever, which means off to YouTube to learn basic mechanics. Yeah, I watched a video that was like 50 tips for Tekken, and every single one of them was incredibly useful, but totally obtuse. It wasn't easy to learn. But of course, getting one tapped in the head by a dude with a thermal sniper doesn't... Thermal sniper? Oh, that wasn't about Tekken. That was... Oh, it said Tarkov. Well. Video game exists with no tutorial. You have to go to YouTube to learn it. Everything about it's obtuse. It doesn't make sense. You just get instantly killed by all the better players. They can beat you with any gun in the game. They can pick up any old gun in the game and beat you. Wow. You got me? Yeah, when I saw this comment in this thread, a devious idea appeared in my head. Somebody in here says, I think there's already a common term used for these games. Dead games. Oh, man. Calling Fortnite and Dead by Daylight and Siege and, Counter-Strike dead games. It's a pretty interesting thread. Anyway, the reason I brought up this thread in the first place is because oftentimes when I talk about fighting game difficulty compared to other genres, people say stuff like, fighting games are more obtuse and they're so difficult and they don't have tutorials and they're bad at this and they're bad at that. And that's true. We shouldn't let fighting games off the hook. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that these games all struggle with the same things that fighting games do, right? They don't have tutorials, or even if they have tutorials, they don't cover a lot, or even if these tutorials are great, you still need to go to YouTube to learn how to play the game, and the players that are let's playing the game are experienced veteran players who know what they're doing and kick the shit out of you when you start. And the only way to get past that is to continue playing the game and get used to it, right? You can just read this thread, and instead of whatever the game that they're talking about is, put a fighting game there in your mind, and so many of the things will sound exactly like a fighting game. I don't like the rhetoric around fighting games. Fighting games are so much harder than every other genre. It's impossible to get into them, and they have all these unique things that plague them. I feel like people who play fighting games just don't play other games. Or if they do, they don't realize how much they suck at other games. Fighting games, it's very easy to understand how bad you are at them because you lose. But in these other games, you loot for 5 minutes and you don't die when you drop in Warzone, and you're like, I'm the best Warzone player ever. And then you get fucking murdered. And you're like, oh yeah. And regardless of what your feelings are about fighting games, I think portraying them as different from these other games is incorrect in a lot of ways. They have their differences, but many of the things that plague fighting games plague other games. Tarkov came up, right? It was the game that I was using as a replacement for Tekken. Do you guys know anything about Tarkov? It's a game that you can play multiplayer, right? You can play with teammates and stuff, but it's not like a team built-in game. At the top of Twitch all the time is Tarkov because they have drops in the game, so people watch it. It's incredibly popular. Tarkov is brutal. I can think of very few popular games that are that fucked up. You start in an area and then you get to go around and loot or whatever, right? And do whatever you're going to do, find new stuff, get new things, and it persists on your body. And then you have to make it to an extraction point. And you die like that in the game. So you can imagine there's a guy just hiding in a corner of a building, like slowly creeping around, and he just pops you. And you've been looting for 15 minutes and you just get shot and die and lose all your loot. But it's super popular, right? Despite it being incredibly difficult, despite it having no tutorial, despite it being like the learning curve is brutal. And even if you somehow get some cool loot that you're really happy with, you need to bring the loot with you back into the wild to try to kill people, and then you just die. At the end of the day, Tarkov is still an FPS, which makes it easier to understand than a fighting game for most players. That's where you lose me, I think. I don't know. I think a lot of people can understand how a fighting game works. In a fighting game, you know that the two characters have health bars, and whoever loses their health bar first dies. That's it. I don't think either are complicated. A lot of people say things about fighting games like, well, you got to learn the motions, or you got to learn this, or you got to learn that, or there's like lots of difficult things that you have to get to before you can get into the fighting aspect. When I think about MOBAs or I think about battle royales, I think these games have just a numerous amount of things you have to get through before you get to the core gameplay that everybody wants to get to. The core of these games is point and click. Correct? Like at their lowest level, it's like aim at a guy, shoot him. But in reality, in like these battle royales, we're not even going to make it to shooting yet. When you play a battle royale, you start and you spawn. When you spawn, you have to choose where you're going to go. How do you know where a good place to go is? You literally have zero clue. You drop in a spot, you're like, this spot looks cool. Hey, there's a lot of people here. Dead. All right, let me try again. Back into the queue. Okay, let's see here. Where am I going to go now? That place has nobody there. I'm going to spawn there. What the fuck is this gas doing? Dead. You're like, okay, I should probably pay attention to the map and figure out where this gas is going to be and go somewhere where not a lot of people are, but there's going to be some loot anyways. You're not even at the aiming and shooting part. And then once you land, you have to figure out what to loot. And when you figure out what to loot, you have to know, is this a good thing to loot? Is this a bad thing to loot? What am I supposed to pick this up for Oshio Ghost? Is this a primary? Is this a secondary? Is this equipment of some kind? Is this gun better than that gun? I don't know. Infilament brings it up. Like when we first played PUBG, all of us had played 3, 4, 5, 600 hours of PUBG, and he'd never played. So we would walk up to a body and be like, take everything, bounce, right? He would walk up to a body and open it up and be like, all right, and pull up like the King's Scroll, and he'd be like, this man has an assault rifle. This assault rifle has a few attachments on it, it seems, a couple. Besides that, it seems like he also has a pistol of some sorts. I'm not sure of what variety. Let me hold the pistol. The pistol seems like a pistol. I can't give you any other clarification besides that. Let me set the pistol back. Now, when it comes to ammunition, there's a lot. It seems like he has 473 rounds of 5.56. Now, what is my gun? Let me close this real quick. Let me look at my gun. Does my gun take these bullets? 373 rounds of 7.62. And he's got some heals. He's got a health kit, a syringe, and painkillers. Which is the best? Do I take the pain? Well, drugs are bad, so I'm not going to take the painkillers. I guess I'll take the health kit, right? That seems like it's good. You know what I mean? Like, this is what it's like when you're first playing a battle royale. Yeah, you look at the body and you look around and you're literally dying in the gas and your team is 500 million miles away and you're like, wait, guys, I got my gun, and you just fall over dead. So yeah, I mean, there are things you have to get through in the game before you get to the shooting aspect. Once you make it to the shooting aspect, the gulf that exists between someone who cannot aim and shoot and someone who's incredibly good at aiming and shoot, the massive gulf here is hard to overstate. Like, it is huge. And not only that, but the people up here, they will also learn how to loot quickly. They will also learn what to pick up. They will also learn how to drop. They'll even figure out the drop mechanics so that they can go the farthest that they can go or fall the fastest. They'll know the best places to check for loot. They'll know exactly what weapon you have and what it sounds like just by ear. They'll have all this knowledge of the game and where to stand and what to do and all this stuff over you when you first begin. And not only that, you drop into a map with 99 other people and you think you're going to win. I think they're all tough. And I think this thread is great because if you haven't looked at this thread, reading through it, you will realize that the things that you find frustrating or difficult about fighting games exist for almost every game that is competitive on the planet and every genre. It's all the same. Thinking we're some different anomaly to me is just absurd. Now that being said, are there lots of things that fighting games still need to improve on? Absolutely. And so do these games, right? It's not like these games are fucking not big piles of shit. I mean, so many of them have so many fucked up weird things with them too. In MOBAs, it's so easy to jump in. You got nothing to stop you. Jump in with your buddies. You have a great old time. I'm like, dude, have you ever played? First of all, I don't know who your friends are. I've never in my life seen a fighting game destroy a friendship. It can't even begin to fracture a friendship in the same way that a MOBA can just slice one clean in half. It's not even fucking close. That's how it goes for more better.
I do think fighting games tend to be pretty bad at offering any co-op gameplay. If I want to get new friends and we don't have any way to dunk on people together like in FPS or MOBA.
Sure. I agree with that. But at the same time, you can directly teach and play with your friends with just the two of you. You don't need more people to play with. You also don't have the experience of like, you guys queue up for a match, your friend gets shot, he goes 3-23 and you go 32-5 and you guys lose the game and you're like, oh, it was close. Yeah. And your friend's like, this fucking sucks. I don't like this at all. I mean, they feel like a burden and they're not having any fun. I go to play Rocket League with Infilament and he fucking is so good that every match we're getting matched up with professional and collegiate Rocket League players. And I'm over here like, oh, ball go fast. Me hit ball. And I'm driving the car over there. I'm like Barney Rubble. I'm not even fucking driving the car. My goddamn feet are through the bottom of my fucking car, and I'm yabba-dabba-doo running across the goddamn field trying to hit the ball into the net, and these motherfuckers are on the ceiling doing backflips and fucking and just like hitting the ball. It's like Wanted. The ball curves in there and shit, and it's Morgan Freeman, and I'm over here just like in bedrock, just like fucking, how do I hit the ball? Like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, I mean, sure, you can play online cooperative with your friends and teach them, but there are other issues with these that you're going to run into that exist. Sure, I agree with you that in fighting games, there is not a cooperative endeavor you can tackle together. But at the same time, playing as a new player with your friends who are experienced, sometimes it sucks in other games. What if your friend just decides to smurf? I'll just make a new account. We'll play together and whatever. So your friend's just destroying these new players, and these new players now are frustrated because we need a term for games that are in a specific state where only hardcore players remain who dominate in such a way that prevents new players from being able to enjoy. Well. How did we make our way back here? I've been reading these horrible fighting game takes on Twitter for over a week now, 2 weeks now. And I've been reading people who clearly never played another genre of game, seriously, any kind of competitive game, and reading them talk about what struggles fighting games have compared to these other genres that are crushing it. I'm like, you're just a fucking moron. Plain and simple. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. In those genres, the exact same things you say fighting games are bad at, they exist in those genres. You don't play other genres of games. Your suggestions all suck, and I don't want you to be able to tweet on your Twitter account anymore. But instead, I was like, how do I turn this into an interesting, constructive thread where we can look at some cool examples of this and we can all talk about it? Fighting game players exist in this strange bubble that leads them into making these weird takes about the genre that are so ill-informed to the rest of the world, I feel like. That's just how it goes. All those games are like that.
Listen.
Have you guys ever been to a local or a tournament and had somebody there just like talk to you the whole time while you're beating them, while you're playing them? They're like, oh man, I'm so bad. I'm brand new, haha. And you're just like whooping their ass. You're like, yeah, it must suck. In casuals, you should just chat it up. But in tournament, when you're talking to someone, mid-set, they ask you like, oh, is that safe? You're like, nah, it looks like it to me. You're just like, I don't know. The people who ask you those things in tournament are the people who ask to copy your homework, like while it's being turned in. You're like, bro, it's too late. The teacher is collecting the homework as we speak.